Okay, I was going to work on other stuff today, but out of clear blue sky, Bungie has given us the full Arc 3.0 preview up on Bungie.net. I really didn't think we'd be hearing anything about this at all until August 23rd. If you want to read along with me, I will link the official Arc preview document below, but here we go. By the way, quick reminder to subscribe to my channel if you're new. Thank you very much. Okay, apparently the TLDR of Arc 3.0 all boils down to, quote, go fast and hit stuff, according to Destiny designer Sam Dunn. They're calling it the Hold W subclass. It's all built around moving forward and encouraging aggression. One of their main inspirations behind the new Arc 3.0 revamp is, and on God, I am not making this up, the 2009 movie Crank 2 High Voltage with Jason Statham, where he's got to keep his body charged to stay alive. Moving on to new abilities surrounding Arc 3.0, there's a new buff coming called Amplified. An Amplified Guardian is faster, both in terms of overall movement speed, but also with weapon handling. They can also perform very long slides in-game. Bungie goes on to mention that unlike other damage buffs like Void Invisibility, players don't need to equip any specific aspect or fragment to become amplified, which is actually really huge. By default, all classes become amplified after rapidly defeating targets with literally any arc damage. Equipped aspects and fragments offer additional ways to become or benefit from being amplified. After sprinting for a few seconds, an amplified guardian gets another speed boost that apparently is no joke. Quote, basically as fast as we can make our sprint animation go. When you get that extra speed boost, you'll get a sizable PvE DR buff and get an even longer slide ability, comparable to something you might see in Metroid. I don't know about y'all, but that sounds kind of great, but also very frightening to me. Good movement has always been really important in PvP, and it sounds like Arc 3.0 is getting a ton of great movement almost for free. Even if a player is no longer amplified, if they keep sprinting, the speed booster buff will stay active. Very glad, by the way, that Bungie looks to be really keeping DR and PvE only moving forward. That's good for both PvP, because DR through things like Omnioculus is really annoying, and good for PvE overall. Bungie goes on to mention that adding PvE DR to speed booster was to really cement it as a strong gap closing tool. For debuffs, Arc 3.0 is getting two, Blind and Jolt. Blind sounds like it'll be what it's always been in the game. Enemies in PvE won't be able to see or fire their weapon, and in PvP, blinded people will have their screen totally whited out and their HUD taken away for a moment. Jolted enemies who are damaged will periodically send out waves of chain lightning to nearby enemies. Here's something kind of big. Ionic Trace, which used to be only something tied to Middle Tree Chaos Reach Warlock, is now being added to every class in Arc 3.0. When collected, you'll get added energy for all abilities. As a Warlock main, only a little bit sad about that one. Ionic Traces are legit great, and I'm glad that Titans and Hunters will get to fiddle with them for free. Regarding the Arc 3.0 Hunter, here's what we're getting. With the goal of modeling the Arc 3.0 Hunter fantasy off a, quote, graceful warrior monk, the Arc Staff Super is returning. Was kind of thrown off by the word returning, by the way, implying it had gone somewhere. Anyway, it looks like Bungie is folding in Middle Tree Arc Hunter into the default Arc Staff kit. Hunters will be able to block and deflect projectiles with the press of a button, as well as perform an armored dodge, where upon dodging, the Hunter gets a little splash of DR. If you were one of the Hunter mains out there hoping that Arc 3.0 Hunters would get a second super, well, good news, they're getting one, and it's called the Gathering Storm. The Hunter leaps into the air, chucking their staff into the ground like a spear. On impact, the staff emits a damage burst that will jolt nearby enemies. Shortly after, a giant bolt of lightning will hit the staff and overcharge it, creating a large damage zone around it for several seconds. When overcharged, the staff will send out arcs of lightning to damage any enemies that move nearby. That sounds really badass, also quite good for PvE, depending on how long the damage zone will stick around for. Melee-wise, Hunters are keeping the Combination Blow ability, as Bungie felt it really worked with Arc 3.0. Kills with Combination Blow will refund dodge energy, increase melee damage, and restore a small amount of health, allowing Hunters to chain their dodges and melee attacks. I'm gonna say right now, minorly annoyed at the restore a small amount of health part. That better be a really small amount of health. Every time something in-game centers around health regen in any way, it often leads to a, how do I put this, troubling meta, I'll say. The Disorienting Blow melee ability is also sticking around, blinding enemies and amplifying the Hunter. Here are the three Hunter aspects for Arc 3.0. Flow state. Defeating a jolted opponent causes you to become amplified. When amplified, the Hunter's dodge will recharge faster and make you more resistant to damage, and you have quicker reload times. Tempest Strike allows the hunter to perform a sliding melee that launches an arc wave along the ground, dealing significant damage and jolting enemies in its path. Finally, you get Lethal Current. After dodging, the hunter's melee lunge range is increased and their next melee attack jolts the target and creates a damaging lightning aftershock. When used with the Arc Staff Super, after dodging, the hunter's next staff light attack will hit twice. In addition, hitting a jolted enemy with a melee attack will blind them. Also, maybe the biggest news out of everything related to the Arc 3.0 Hunter Kit, hunters are getting back Blink, which they haven't had since D1. The Blink ability will also get a baseline buff for any class that has access to it, i.e. Void Warlocks. Bungie comments that Blink hasn't been touched since D2's release and never quite reached the heights of its previous reign of terror, i.e. how damn fun it was in D1. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, if Blink is tuned the right way, it will in fact be a terror in D2. After reading everything that hunters are getting in Arc 3.0, I'm thinking they're gonna be a much stronger option than I originally thought. Moving on to Warlocks. Bungie wants Warlock players to feel like they're channeling the power of the storm through their body, mentioning images of a lightning shaman and the Senate in full tickle finger mode. The two Warlock supers will be Chaos Reach, where you can fire off a concentrated Kamehameha, like always, and Storm Trance, aka float around and give people the electric tickle. Storm Trance is apparently getting both Landfall from Bottom Tree Arc and Ionic Blink from Top Tree Arc, and holy shit, that is a giant buff to Storm Trance. Storm Trance without Ionic Blink just feels plain bad, and giving it both that and Landfall in the default kit is wild to me. Warlocks have two melees available, the Ball Lightning melee from Old Middle Tree, which is always fun, and Chain Lightning, which sends out arcs of lightning to jolt the primary target and then chain damage to nearby people. If a Warlock is amplified, they get powered up. With Ball Lightning, if you're amplified, the Arc Ball will zap an enemy 3 times instead of the normal 1. For Chain Lightning, it's able to chain more targets, i.e. while normal Chain Lightning makes a single set of chains that bounce between a set number of targets, the amplified version makes 2 sets of chains and can jump to twice the number of enemies. Here are the 3 Arc 3.0 Warlock aspects. Arc Soul, aka Arc Buddy. You know the deal, you cast a rift to create an Arc Soul that will help out the player in battle. Allies who pass through the rift will also earn an Arc Soul. The rift charges quicker when allies are near, and when amplified, any Arc Soul you have or gain is supercharged, improving the rate of fire. Translation: being amplified will probably beef up your Arc Soul rate of fire to the same level as that found on the exotic Escape Artist, which will be great. Lightning Surge: the Warlock activates their melee while sliding to transform into a ball of lightning and teleport forward, calling down a field of lightning bolts at the exit point that will jolt targets. Not gonna lie, that sounds really good. Finally, Electrostatic Mind. Arc ability kills and kills on arc debuffed enemies will create an Ionic Trace. When you collect any Ionic Trace, you become amplified. Simple but effective. Overall, I really can't wait for the beefed up Storm Trance. My god, gonna be wild. Moving on to Titans. According to Bungie, the Arc Titan's ultimate goal is to punch you in the face. No surprise there. Naturally, that ties in well to both Fist of Havoc and Thunder Crash. Thankfully, Bungie mentions that Thunder Crash is pretty much being left unchanged, but Fist of Havoc now has an adjusted slam radius that's halfway between current top and bottom arc tree. The ground slam will leave a damaging field in its wake, while slamming from the air causes a damaging AoE effect. Huge. Just like the Warlock Storm Trance, they're taking the best of both worlds and mashing it together into the core ground pound kit. A big change coming to the Arc Titan is the new Thruster class ability. By double tapping a button, the Titans burst in their throttle direction at speed, performing a quick first-person evade comparable to distance on a hunter dodge. Holy fucking with that, by the way. Calling it right now, if that class ability is done the right way and it has a cooldown comparable to a hunter dodge, that's going to be wildly strong in PvP. Cannot wait to use. For melee attacks, Titans retain the Seismic Strike shoulder charge, which can blind people. Doing that strike when amplified will increase the radius of blind, and the effect will last longer. Ballistic Slam will also stick around, where you can do a mini ground pound from the air. And there's a brand new melee attack called Thunderclap, which sounds great. Hold the melee button down to charge up arc energy that can be unleashed in either a quick powerful jab, or held and built up to be unleashed in a furious One Punch Man style blast. Fuck Awesome. But before you freak out, the charged state cannot be stored, thank God, and the Titan must be on the ground to charge the punch. Bungie mentions that at 90% charge, the Thunderclap can one-shot enemy guardians in PvP. While that may sound overpowered on paper, Bungie mentions again that the reward is balanced by the time it will take to build up that charge level and by the fact that you must remain stationary in order to charge. TLDR, Titans get a goddamn Falcon Punch, but it's a huge risk versus reward scenario. You can't charge it in the air, you can't keep holding the charge and move around with it. You gotta plant your feet and take a big gamble. I love it. Here are the 3 Titan aspects for Arc. Touch of Thunder improves arc grenades in the following ways. Flashbang fires an additional blind impulse on the first bounce. Nice. Pulse. When the grenade damages an enemy, it creates an ionic trace for the Titan. Pulse grenade damage increases over time as the grenade lingers after impact. Lightning grants an additional charge for the lightning grenade and jolts targets on initial blast. Storm creates a roaming thundercloud that moves and tracks enemies, similar to the Hunter, Silence, and Squall super, firing bolts of lightning at the ground underneath it. On paper, that all sounds really good. I want to throw on Armamentarium and go double Storm Nade like right now. Juggernaut. When sprinting with full class ability energy, the Titan gets a frontal shield that blocks incoming damage. When amplified, the shield is stronger. Once the shield is depleted by taking damage, the player's class ability energy is depleted. I kinda like it. Barricade on the go. Sounds like it might pair very well with the Antaeus wards too. One question though, will that pair together with the MK44 Standasides? Because that might be really strong. Finally, Knockout. Melee kills trigger health regeneration and make the Titan amplified. Critically wounding an enemy or breaking their shield increases melee range and damage for a brief period. Titan's base melee becomes arc empowered while Knockout is active. Moving on, we of course get a bunch of new fragments to play with too. Here's what we got. Spark of Beacons. When the player is amplified, arc special weapon kills create a blinding explosion. Already fantasizing about pairing that with the Dead Messenger or the Forbearance. Spark of Resistance. When surrounded by enemies, the player has increased damage resistance. God damn it, Bungie. Hoping that the DR there is minimal and at least takes 2 Guardians or more to proc in PvP, otherwise it'll be really annoying. For PvE, Spark of Resistance sounds literally mandatory for any endgame PvE content. Spark of Momentum. Sliding over ammo will reload your weapon and grant a small amount of melee energy. Sliding over heavy ammo increases the amount of energy granted. And Spark of Shock. The player's arc grenades will jolt enemies. Pretty much guaranteed that just like Void and Solar 3.0, we'll be getting a bunch more fragments for Arc 3.0. Bungie just ain't mentioning or showing them here. Some might get unlocked after the world's first raid completion, I would probably imagine. Go down to the comment section right now and tell me your initial Arc 3.0 thoughts. What is sounding like super hot fire? What is sounding mediocre to you? Kinda weird. For me as a Warlock main, I'm sort of looking forward to Titan and Hunter more. Hunters get Blink and Titans get Thrust. Feeling like both are going to be really fun. Gotta say though, kinda shocked at how much DR is being added into the Arc 3.0 kit. Feeling right now that in endgame PvE, a lot of people are going to go Arc just for the DR alone. I guess time will tell. While you're down in the comments section sharing your thoughts, by the way, again, please click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Be sure to follow me on Twitch as well. I'll be going live tomorrow while we wait for the TWAB, as always. Come by and say hi. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.